So thank you for coming today to the webinar. The webinar is going to be hosted for Raul Valdez. He's a computer scientist and a data engineer, head of the front end in architecture in Bosoni. Previously to Bosoni, Raul had worked as a front end developer in companies like Cornita, Pony, or Need Technology. He has worked in the European Union Intellectual Property Officer, where he led the implementation of methodologies based in Agile. He's an expert in tools and technologies like JavaScript, TypeScript, Angular, Net, Vue, React, Amazon Web Service, Salesforce, NetSuite, REST, MongoDB, Jenkins, Git, Docker, Pre, and Karma, and Along, etc. And we are glad to have him here for this webinar. And the methodology of the webinar, he will present the webinar, and then after we will have time for some questions and answer. But if I had learned something from them these days, apparently this is a very specific for each solution and the architecture that each solution have implemented in their own organization. So maybe we can let some questions, then you can maybe send them to me, and I will forward it to the expert to get some insights. So Raul, whenever you feel ready, the floor is yours. I think you can share your computer for the presentation.
Okay, cool. So let me share my screen now. Okay, so should I start now, Rocío?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Okay, cool. So nice to meet you all. I'm going to present and talk about FHIR, it's pronounced FHIR. This is a presentation that my colleague Jose Orlando Baez Patiño has made. Okay, so he's also a part of this presentation, and he's the main expert in this standard of communication and framework that we're going to talk about. Okay, so let me put this a bit bigger so you can see it better. Give it a second, I think it's loading. Okay, I think I will better use it in this view. Okay, so let me present you the table of contents. We're going to talk about what FHIR is, what is the purpose, what are the main differences between this version and the previous version, and why do we think that this new version of FHIR is better. And then we're going to talk about development process. Okay, in this section, we're going to talk about the best practices, all the recommendation, and all the guidelines that this new standard enforces. And then we're going to talk a bit about what is an API and what functionality we are able to achieve by this. And then, of course, talk about security. Okay, security is very important for the medical field. So we're going to put some emphasis in that. And then we're going to finish talking about development best practices. Okay, so let's start about talking about what FHIR is. Okay, this stands for FHIR. It's Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources. Okay, so this basically is defining a set of rules around granular clinical concepts. Okay, all of these resources are going to be treated in a specific way defined by this framework. Okay. The main idea that we can achieve of this is that we're going to ease the communication in all of the COVID clinical related matters by using this version. Okay. Also, in a technical perspective, this is a new version that we can use more protocols such as XML, JSON, RESTful protocols. So this adds up in a more ease of implementation for developers. Okay, this makes life easier for developers. Okay. Then let's talk about the purpose of this of FHIR. Okay, we think that the main purpose of this is implementation. Okay, developers will have a much easier way of developing, and then all of the concepts will be much more clear. Okay? Such concepts as how will information be exchanged, how terminologies are being used, the information, how it's being secured, and when the information is being exchanged. So it's not only about how you treat information, but it's also adding a layer of new information that you can use in your benefit. Okay. This gives the organization a way of communicating and exchanging all of these resources. Okay, let's proceed to the differences between this and the previous frameworks. This new version is being done by the same organization that the previous one. Okay, previously they have done the version 2, version 3, and the CDA. Okay? But this one is we think that is much more complete. We have more definitions, and we have extend all of the concepts around it. It's important to add here that these frameworks makes developers' life easier, and this traduces in faster and less error-prone development and implementations. And now we are going to talk more specifically about why we think FHIR is better than the previous versions. Okay. As we said before, this will rely on a faster and easier to implement a framework. We have many libraries around it, so the development will be much easier because we have some ground that we can base the development upon. Of course, is completely free, no restriction of usage. This comes with a lot of functionality out of the box, so you can use a lot of profiles, extension terminologies, and much more things. And also a strong foundation of web standards. We can use things such as XML, JSON, HTTP, OAuth. Of course, supports RESTful architectures, and this traduces in more seamless communication. And then step forward to the development process. Okay, this is the longest section of this presentation. We're going to talk about some entities. Okay, basically, we're going to talk about the resource, domain resource, the basic, binary, and the bundle. Okay, each of them is very important in concept to understand the FHIR development process. Okay, first, let's talk about what a resource is. I'm going to give this an example about this. For instance, let's take a medical exam result. Okay, the way to access this information is going to be defined by these resource rules. Okay, so this gives us a tool that we can wrap every result exam, any resources around with this. Okay, so this will guide the developers in a certain way and will make the information more standard. The next concept will be domain resource. This is basically grouping a set of resources around a use case. Okay, this is just for organization, and actually this is a traditional concept in software developer. Then let's talk about the basic. So this is a way that this framework allows us to cover all of the existing use cases and keep it open to future use cases. Okay, so these basic rules will set the ground for any kind of new development. Okay, this is for any future use case or anything. You have a way to extend this functionality of this framework. Then binary, of course. Binary is just a basic for any kind of resource that we can treat as binary, such as videos, text, images, PDF, zips, any kind of these files. Okay, and then we have a bundle. Bundle basically is just a collection of resources. We talked about before about a medical exam result. So a collection of these will be a bundle. Okay, and this is basically just a set of them. It's nothing special around it, but we have a way to group them and treat them in a collective way. Then we can talk about what is an API. An API, an application programming interface, is a way of communication between two computer programs, right? So thanks to an API, we can choose the information that we expose to external consumers. Okay? This is extremely powerful, and this comes with challenges. Okay? The challenges will be security. So how to secure an API and how to treat this in the medical field, which is very sensible matter in this case, right? So this framework enforces and recommends you a set of best practices around this. And this is hugely important for the medical field, of course, and we are going to, this framework enforces all of these that you can see here. Like, for example, encryption, you can set principles, validations. So everything around securing an API will be covered here and is documented with the latest technologies. Development best practices. So the main idea here is just to have a ground up that we need to enforce a set of best practices to be defined by the context and the use case. Okay, so depending of this context and use case, these best practices are going to change. So this we cannot give a specific rules like we have in this presentation before. Okay, we just can recommend that depending of this context, you have to proceed in one way or another. And this has to be very specific, and you can have, for example, 2 different ways of implementing this, like defining variants and marking them as best practice rules, and adding narrative that define these best practices. Okay, so depending on the context, this will change. So, but it's important to keep in mind that this is something that each organization has to implement by themselves. Okay, and then we're going to have a link here to the official documentation. In this website, you can find the original documentation. Everything is well documented, and it will be updated very regularly. And then we're going to finish this presentation by saying the main idea of this. Okay, so each organization, of course, will be different. This standard is looking for a standardized these ways of communication and have a common language to access these resources. So this will ease development, make it faster, less errors, less defects, and at the end it will have a much better product at the end. Okay, so now I hand over to you, and if you have any questions, please ask anything that you can think of.
Thank you, Raul. That was very fast. I don't know if some concepts have been clear, and then there is some questions for the audience now, or if someone want to get a specific questions for the organization, and then send them to me by email maybe. But let's leave some time for this. Well, Zealand, nobody have any questions. I honestly don't know what it would be the best then, if it's better to.
I have one. I can make one if you want, Monsieur. Okay.
Yes, please.
Thank you. No, the point is we are trying to implement HL7 in our system, and we are working on. And my doubt is about the best tool to use. In fact, we are working, for instance, with Microsoft Azure, and Microsoft Azure has implemented the Microsoft Azure HL7 tool. So that already facilitates the implementation. So my point is, should we go through the HL7 as basically from A to Z going to this direction to the HL7 org instructions, or should we use a simple tool where we can go faster?
Okay, thanks for your question, Jose. So you're saying if using Microsoft Azure will be a good tool to start with this, right?
Yes, because they already have these tools implemented.
Mm-hmm. So I think that there shouldn't be an issue by using Microsoft Azure. I don't know, of course, if you have any experience working with this.
Yeah, this is a good option. Azure is a very big platform. maybe you can ask in this moment with Amazon Web Service, but Azure is the same and it's a stable platform. This is a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
So basically, Jose, there's no restriction in using Azure, Google Cloud, AWS, or even your own servers around this, right?
No, any restriction.
Good. There is any other question in the room? Since we have a very quiet audience today. Otherwise, as I say, I will thank you all for this time together. And then if anyone have any question and want to send to me, please go ahead.